And you're welcome back to the show. It's Breakfast Extra for a Saturday, the very first installment for this weekend, the last weekend for the month of September. Now, we're shifting our focus today to the big report of the day from last weekend's Edo State elections, which left everyone talking, from the political and analysts to the average voter. What should have been a smooth democratic process, or it seemed like it, turned into a theater of chaos, allegations, and technical difficulties. So between accusations of rigging, vote buying, underage voters casting ballots, and an electoral commission struggling to get results out, this election has been anything but straightforward.
Yes, indeed, you bet. We just told about that. With reports of INEC portal getting stuck at 28% for days, and major contenders at loggerheads, Edo political landscape was nothing short of dramatic. In fact, it was the drama to see all week. But there's no better way to understand what really went down than to hear from those who were, well, in the thick of it. Today, we're taking a closer look at the last weekend's events through the eyes of our reporters who were stationed across various locations in Edo State. They witnessed the action, the tension, and also the questionable practices that have raised eyebrows across the nation.
And so joining us are News Central's correspondents. We have Bettina Onweli, we have Amadi Uyi, and Austin Azu. Now these gentlemen and lady is going to join us. They've been seasoned journalists who were on the ground covering the elections from different perspectives and different parts of Edo State. And first on the lineup is Austin Azu. Austin, thank you so much for joining us, and a very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Well, Austin, again, good morning.
Good morning,
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's just dive right into it, shall we? You were at the rack center, I beg your pardon, and you witnessed how the materials were going out. But first, let's get your overview experience from last week Saturday's elections.
The last week Saturday election in Edo State has come and gone, but somehow we are left with the memories of how the day went. And first, we got our accreditation before we went about our normal businesses for that particular day. I covered Edo Central, precisely that of the the PDP governorship candidate at Awehimi, Ward 3, Unit 1. And thereafter, we moved to other polling units and to other wards across the local government areas within Edo Central before we came to Edo South, where we covered a very few places like Ego local government area. However, we met some pockets of violence that erupted at Ward 7, Unit 21. And of course, you know quite well that whenever there was any crisis or violence in any polling unit, that particular polling unit will not record any vote count. So definitely that Ego in Ward 7, Unit 21 was cancelled. It was not reported. It was not recorded any results. So, but we experienced, large turnouts of some voters in some particular wards and some particular polling units. We saw heavily armed security personnel on the ground. They were very pretty much on the ground, and they were kind of civil. And what's actually, that was most prevalent in the areas we visited was vote buying. Vote buying became like, at what happened at the parallel market. So you need to trade your business. You need to ensure that you have more value for what you want to sell. From us at around 12 noon on Saturday, the exchange rate was between 7,000 to 10,000. So from 12 o'clock down to 2 o'clock, the exchange rate went higher. So some people were eventually selling for the rate of 15,000 to 19,000, be it as it may. So invariably, it means that all the political parties that went in for that election, one way or the other, were involved in the horse trading, because we saw some people at the end of the day after voting, they were given foods. Some people were given some exchange of cash behind the same. So obviously, the people were actually out for the business of the day. But at the end of the day, so we finally came back to the RAC Center, where the collation process was quite delayed, almost about 17 hours before it finally started. So, but nevertheless, while we are waiting for the collation to begin around 2 a.m. on Sunday morning, we heard about the arrival of the sitting governor to the INEC Center. So obviously he raised some uproar from the opposition party in the state, which is APC, and they equally came into the arena and they demanded that the governor must leave the vicinity that early morning, otherwise nobody will leave. So it took the intervention of the DIG, who is in charge of the election, and other security personnel to ensure they are able to restore peace to the area, because as at then we had some noise from outside the gate and some other people who have no business coming to the RAC Center, attempts to infiltrate the area. So it took the intervention of the security agencies to ensure they are able to, calm the situation before finally the governor was escorted out of the premises.
Now,
and
Austin,
we came out from the premises, we saw, presence of youth. Yeah, I can hear you.
Now, Austin, now if we understand that you're currently in Anambra, also covering the elections there as well. Now, if you compare what you saw pre-election in Edo State to what's happening currently in Anambra State, what comparison would you give? What's the the atmosphere like as they're expecting the elections?
Currently in Anambra State right now, and we heading towards one of the polling units and one of the wards where we'll be having the election this morning. Election ought to have started exactly 8 o'clock from what we are told by the ANSEC chairman, but all the way from Onitsha down to this particular area, we have not seen any presence of these officials, the ANSEC officials, not even security personnel. It seems everyone seems to be going about their normal duty, whatever. But meanwhile, I have some people who are here who can give us some signs of, some benefits of doubt to tell us how prepared they are, because it's obvious that these people are still waiting for the materials and they are yet to arrive. Okay, please come this way. Please come this way. Okay, tell us your name and how prepared are you for the election?
Okay. My name is Chukwuebuku Zetina. I'm from Anambra State, Injikokalo government of Anambra State. I'm seeing everything about the election. Everything is going well. Small time we gather here because of the election, because we are going to our praying unit, different places. So I believe that the election will go well. So what we need to forward, support our good candidate, that the person that we will vote for. So I believe from now till 3 o'clock, everything, the election and the voters, we can see that everything goes well. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's speak to Mazi. Mazi, please, tell us your name and how prepared are you for this election?
Afambo Wabrika Marika.
English.
Ibokanasu. Koya ajo iwe kuya abamu Wabrika Marika. Election ai gejeto. Munata na erube. Ayi loro ka emesha na obu iwe mu anu nwe iwe mu na ntucha anya. Ntucha onye mvu no oboto tolu obi ya ka ị ga-akpọ. Ntuchizie onye mvu no obu eru anọrọ ebe ahụ anọtọ ya agụcha ekwuora na ihe onye wuri na akụwa ka afọ adebe ibe ọzọ. Mgbe risara mụ amenyaje to vote again. Mana etu abịago n'ụdị nke a mụ ya eji to risago ndu akpọ ndube m anya ya gbago ebe a. Ebe nso akwụrụ ka ba ga-akwụ. Ndị ebe nye mbiri ka ba ga-ebiri. Mana abiri mmadụ se echejizi na ọbịa bi iwe ndị mmadụ gwara jizi na tiraba mma njeze eto. Etu akawa n'ọnụ.
Well, all right then. Thank you very much.
All right, Zino, let me just quickly interpret from what Mazi just said. And
Go ahead, please.
All right, he said because of last year's election, the presidential election, and he said that they were robbed, and because of that he decided not to go to the poll before. But currently, right now, he has changed his mind that he's going to go to the polling unit to go and vote, but he's just asking for security personnel and to ensure that their votes will count.
Well, thank you so much, Austin, for that. Well, we'll come back to you. But in the meantime, we have Amadin Uyi, Chief of our Abuja Bureau for News Central TV. Amadin, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you for doing this with us. It's been, the elections for Edo State is wrapped up. It's now over. The results are out. The governor, or the governor that won the, or rather, Opabolo and the ruling party APC have won the elections for Edo State, and he's gone to collect his return certificate. But we're assessing the elections, right? And Austin just pointed out a number of things that happened on that election day. And one of them, which has been crucial and really been talked about, is vote buying, right? It's been, and even reeled out the numbers, the amounts that was paid. And you also sort of talked about covert vote buying during that time. I've also seen reports from Yaga Africa, particularly, and other observers of the election who have pointed to vote buying as them being prevalent on that day. What are your thoughts to that, and also underage voting and all the other events that happened during the elections? Martin, can you hear me? Martin.
It would seem that he is not. He can't hear us apparently, unfortunately. But good question there.
I'll try to bring him up if we have to.
I hope we're able to establish connection with him again, so that we could ask him this very important question. Also, how the electorate, the voters, actually accepted the results after it was announced. I really would like to know from Amadin. But I'm also being told that we have Ifuna Indika of Ready to Lead, who was also an election observer at the Edo State elections. Ifuna, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Is Ifunaya with us? I saw her just a minute ago. Well, we're still going to try and establish connection with her as well. But talking about you spoke about the reports that have come out since after. There's that one from Yaga Africa. There's also the Kimpact result report, which seem to be quite similar.
Yes.
And later on during the show, we're going to be talking to a gentleman and lady from these two different observation centers or observation bodies who monitor the elections in Edo State, and what they found out. Apparently, they're ruffling feathers. Let me just put it that way.
It is ruffling feathers. And all of the political parties as well, APC, Labour Party, NPDP, because it indicted every single party who participated and said every party bought votes during that time. Of course, the PDP have come to say they didn't. APC has vehemently denied and said these allegations are false, they are not true, and the votes and the results reflect what the people of Edo State want. But like you said, which is very pertinent, it's very important that we speak to our reporters to understand how they received the results from the elections and whether or not what the PDP and the APC says is true. You know, so there's a lot going on. And honestly, but the truth of the matter is that the reports, the comprehensive report from Yaga, Kimpact, Ready to Lead, and these other organizations who are observers for the election also broadens a wider, problem with our electoral process and whether or not we can have it as transparent as possible. But we've just been informed that we have Amadin Uyi, our chief of Abuja Bureau for News Central TV. He joins us now. Amadin, thank you so much for joining us. We lost you there for a second, but good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Earlier I was asking about, Good
morning.
Good morning. Now, if you heard Austin earlier on in a submission, he was talking about vote buying and even reeled out the amounts that was paid before and on the day of the elections in Edo State. And you also, during your submission, when we spoke last time during the elections, you also pointed to covert buying, vote buying, which is a report that we've seen from Yaga's report of the elections, as well as the other observers who were observing the elections. What are your thoughts on this, and what are the observations that you make during the elections?
I think clearly, just as I have stated before, there was vote buying and vote selling, vote trading, but it was very covert. If you compare the Edo election to the Ekiti and Osun election, the last obstacles in Ekiti and Osun, you realize that at those polls, it was in the open, but in Edo, it was covert. That means those involved are becoming more sophisticated. And whether we like it or not, we must admit that at this point in time, they are beating security agencies to the game. So whoever is responsible, the agencies that are responsible need to up their game and be able to also improve their intelligence so that they will be able to nip this in the bud. But the reality is that vote buying for now has come to stay in our polls. Whatever needs to be done fast. If not, voters will take it to be a norm.
Okay, then, Ahmadine, so there was plenty of reaction from after the results were announced, the APC. Even the president has congratulated the governor-elect, and he has said in his words, don't mind those noisemakers, referring to any report that might have come out that is disputing the result in their favor. However, what about the people of Edo State? Was it observed what their countenance was after the results were announced? How have they accepted or perhaps maybe shown non-support for the announcement? Did you notice anything?
Now, Edo election is very unique. It depends on the location where you are. In the Edo North area is a stronghold of the APC. So when the results were announced, there was jubilation on the street. Edo Central used to be a stronghold of the PDP. I use the word used to be because the two candidates, the two frontline candidates are from Edo Central. So definitely the votes will be split. And then it depends on the crowd you are mixing with. When you were with the people of the supporters of the People's Democratic Party, they were downcast. But standing with the supporters of the All Progressives Congress, to them it was a victory well deserved. Also, when you go to Edo South, which has the highest population, in all honesty, no party can lay claim to say, I am the dominant party in the Edo South area. Like I said, it depends on the crowd you are mixing with. For the supporters of the People's Democratic Party, because before the results were even announced on social media, a lot of fake results were, I call them fake because a result that is not announced by the electoral body should not be taken seriously. And there were different figures, not just one result, were being bandied around on social media. So they had expected that they had won the poll. So when the results came out, they were very downcast and they felt that the electoral body had been very unfortunate to them. Many of them are convinced that the election was rigged. But for the supporters of the All Progressives Congress, they are insisting and they are convinced that INEC called the real results. So that's why I said Edo election is very unique. It will be high-handedness to say one party won the election or another party was rigged out. But that is the position of the two dominant frontline political parties.
All right. Well, Ahmadine, we want to say thank you so much for taking out the time to discuss with us this morning. But we're going to switch gears away from you now and come to Ifunanya Nduka. She is part of the team at Lead Africa, and they were the observers, one of the observers for the gubernatorial elections in Edo State. Well, I want to say thank you so much for joining us this morning, and good morning to you, Ifunanya.
Good morning.
All right. Even you've joined us from earlier on, and you heard the conversation between us and our correspondents who covered the elections. We also do understand that IAGA has put out a report quite comprehensive about detailing the specific election malpractices within the elections and some irregularities with the election, as well as Kimpact. What are your thoughts on the reports from both organizations?
Okay, so I've looked at the report from Yaga and from Kimpact, and I think they reflect largely what we also observed, at the elections in Edo State. There were cases of voter buy-in. There were cases of, violence, even though that wasn't as much as expected. There was a case of also, multiple cases rather, of voter intimidation, where people weren't allowed to express their constitutional rights, where observers weren't allowed to, record what was happening at certain wards, certain polling unit, and that was a concern for us. So absolutely, I think what Yaga reported reflected our views as well as an observer and as a civil society organization.
I'm wondering, what are other forms of malpractice that might have gone on? Since you were also an election observer as well, you must have observed firsthand these instances. Were there other smaller instances that could have gone unreported or unrecorded by these reports that were submitted by Yaga and Kimpact? What did you find out yourself?
Okay, so outside what was reported, my team didn't find out any other thing, right? The malpractices were in the line of voter buying, oppression, in some cases, inaccessibility, to the polling units. When we consider people living with disability, when we consider the places that had, provision for magnifying glasses for people who had issues with their sight, when we consider all of these things, it seems like it was intentional, because INEC had promised before time that they were going to make provision for these things. But apparently, when we got to the polls, we saw that in the places that had, certain needs for persons with disability, there were no certain provisions, and where it was provided, people hardly used it. So we are wondering, was this intentional? Was this an oversight? Because INEC did their research, and there was data that showed, okay, in this particular local government, there are XYZ people who will need access, because they have problem with their eyesight, they need access because they use wheelchairs, they will need access for whatever reason. But there was just some discrepancies where we needed, these tools and these services and this accessibility, it wasn't present. And where it wasn't needed, it was present. We saw less than 30% compliance with the provision of magnifying glasses. And that was actually very appalling. So, that could be, some tool that was used, that could have been used to ensure that people didn't vote. But yeah.
Voter suppression is one thing that we always talk about here, and just saying that people with disability are unable to participate due to facilities not provided for them to aid them is something that is worrying and of concern. But very, very impressive there for you to point that out. I appreciate you.
Thank you very much, Ifunanya.
Thank you.
And now we have joining us Bukola Idowu from Kimpact Initiative, Kimpact Development Initiative. Now, Bukola, you're welcome. Thank you for joining. You at Kimpact, you also had a similar report to the report that was submitted by Yaga that has caused plenty of controversy. So my question is, if you can give us specific detail on how these report was put together, specific names of places, we would like to know, please.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here. I think one of the things that happened in that election was it was one election that was one of the best planned election in Nigeria, off-cycle election. Surprisingly, in some of the component of that election, it happens to be the worst executed, most especially in the area of results management. So we put out our report. Initially, we had usually joint report with Situation Room and some other civil society organization, and then we put out our statement last week. And in specific, there are things that went wrong with that election, and I'm going to stay, especially stay on the result management. And the result management was actually a shame. Now, so for instance, now to give you a background, we deploy over 500 election observer across the 18 local government. And then one of the things we have done on our ballot integrity was to compare what INEC released, on Form EC8A as released on IREV. So was to do a statistical analysis of that and then compare with what they released and what they declared and what our observer got on ground. So like about 3 comparisons. So number one, the one on IREV that INEC released officially themselves. So we have to download that and then analyze that statistically. Then number two is what INEC declared on TV that many of your station and some other station picked. Then also we now have to look at what our observer at the collation center also got. So and then we find huge amount of the inconsistency in those results. So to be specific now, number one, what INEC released, tabulation of INEC, what they released, you find clear case of overvoting in over 300 polling units across the 18 local government, clear case of overvoting, and that can be taken from IREF and from EC8A they release. And what am I talking about when I mentioned overvoting? So I am talking about where accredited voter was less than total vote cast. So what it means is that some people voted and they were not accredited, and according to the Electoral Act, that is overvoting and that's supposed to be cancelled. So and then we discovered that in not the 18 local government and in over 300 polling units spread across. That is number one. And then the total vote that was affected is in excess of 10,000 votes. So let's put that one aside, number one. Number two is that INEC official, all the returning officers that return, and I think maybe you can go back and play your video again, and then you will confirm what I'm saying. Of course, it's it's on YouTube. All the returning officers that came from the local government claim that there were no cancellation in their local government. There were no cancellation in their local government from the polling unit. There were no cancellation. Please note that. However, on Form EC8A, what we on IREV rather, what we discover is that there are 22 polling units that they uploaded from EC40G. That form is specifically for cancellation. So we have it, we've downloaded it. As a matter of fact, we've downloaded over 4,000 result, 98% of the result that that was uploaded on the IRF, and then we have it. The time we downloaded it, we screenshot everything, and then we analyze that. So to let you know that there are 22 local governments.
Go ahead. We're with you, Bukola. Yes, we're with you. We're with you. Please go ahead.
So there are 22 polling units, 22 polling units that the results were cancelled and they were uploaded on IREF. And we were wondering, why will you come to the collation center and said there were no cancellation when there were 22 cancellation from EC40G? Now, so don't forget, I've already given you overvoting. Then this cancellation amount to 22 polling units. Then the total number of PVC collected in those places were 11,000 plus. Then the total registered voter in those cancellation places, those places that are polling units that were cancelled, was in the excess of 13,000. But let's see, because the margin of lead in the election, according to INEC guideline, is calculated by the PVC collected. So the total polling units, the total PVC collected in those polling units that were cancelled, that INEC, the returning officer, did not declare, were 11,000. Please pick the 11,000 and join it together with the 10,000. Over 10,000 votes from overvoting places, then you put that one aside. Then in the actual tabulation, I will just stick with 3 local governments. to be precise, in Isako West, in Ego, and in Oredo local government. Then even in Ikobaoka, I've mentioned 4 local government to be specific now. The result declared by INEC is not consistent with the tabulation on Form EC8A. So the result declared by INEC was not consistent with what you have on IREF that
Bukola,
they released themselves, they uploaded themselves. So
Bukola,
this is the challenge with that election.
All right.
Bukola, I'm going to ask you one question very quickly before I introduce our guest. Now, okay, very quickly, I'm going to bring in, first of all, our guest, Comrade Orobosa Omojo. He's the Director of Publicity, Edo APC Campaign Organization. Comrade, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you for doing this with us this morning, and a very good morning to you. Comrade, can you hear me? Comrade,
Comrade, hang on. We're still trying to hear you.
Establish your audio, please.
Yes. Perhaps, maybe if you are muted, you can unmute. Well, we're going to try and get that sorted. But I think until then, Judith, if you can continue with your question.
Yes. Bukola, very quickly, this polling units that you cited, the ones that they voted, the elections in those polling units were cancelled, but then the results were uploaded on the IREV. They were announced at the Collation Center. All those polling units, who won in those units?
So, I mean, the first thing I have to say is that when you upload Form EC40G, you know, it doesn't show who won. You get it? It doesn't show who won. It will just tell you, the form will just show that, oh, there's cancellation and the reason for cancellation. So the INEC official ticks those reasons for cancellation. In some places, they said BVAS was not used. In some places, they cited overvoting. In some places, they cited disruption. So, but they don't, you know, because it's cancelled, they don't put the figures there.
Right.
And also, let me say that our report is not actually saying, oh, whoever, this is the person that won or not. Our report is only saying, INEC, check your figure. Is not consistent with what you put out. There are irregularities in the election.
And with these irregularities, what then do you, in your solution, in preferring solutions and recommendations, do you recommend that the elections be redone again so that these irregularities can be either be captured and, you know, be more succinct in terms of, you know, result and capturing voter apathy, suppression, and even overvoting?
So I think the election cannot be done again now because the results have been declared. The only body that can order the re-election to take place is the court, and I'm sure maybe the party concerned will go to court and then do that. However, going forward, you know, in the coming election, we are going to undo election. What are the recommendations we are putting forth? The recommendation we are putting forth, according to Section 65 of the Electoral Act, which give INEC administrative power to review results within 7 days. Administrative power to review results within 7 days. So the question is, why on earth will INEC be rushing to to declare result when you still have a space of 7 days to review the result in case there are any complaints? So there are people that we have seen a situation where the returning officer said he declared result under duress. We have seen the result. We have seen the situation whereby there are arithmetic errors. There are, like what some of those political parties were saying, look, our result was not consistent with what you released. Then in some collation center, people were chased away. And they move the collation to the state headquarters. So what it means is that is a question mark. So what we are now saying is that INEC need to activate that Section 65 to be able, to administratively review result within that 7 days, so that all party should be satisfied, and then it has to be transparent. It is not what you declare. So, and if you follow that process, it is just as if they are doing a child's play. So I mean, the returning officer will come, declare it, read out the result. Then the state returning officer will say any observation, and then somebody will raise up, political party will raise up at their hand and say, look, we have issue with the result declare. This is our number, or this doesn't reflect what we have. And then the next thing you will hear is noted, and they move on and declare. Right. Then why did you ask? So we need to be able to address grievances. And let me say, for the sake of the country, because this is not about a political party, because the political party that benefit today may not benefit in other states.
On that note, Bukola, I was going to ask you a very interesting question.
That is very, very good for the country.
On that note, Bukola, I wanted to know, with all the details that you've given, the numbers, the figures that you've very specifically given, very interesting, but you left out exactly who the culprits were. What parties were responsible for all of these malpractice that we heard from the two reports, Kimpact and Yaga? Could you tell?
So unfortunately, let me use the word unfortunately, tabulating the result, 18 political parties benefited from this. 18 political benefited from these inconsistencies. However, of course, you see that some benefited more, but all of them were actually allocated votes that different from what you have on IREF. So possibly, if the vote, and this is our submission, if the vote truly reflects what we have on IREF, truly reflect the wishes of the people, maybe we will have had a supplementary election because the margin of lead will have been very close, but because of that inconsistency, the margin of lead was extended. Probably that election will have gone into a supplementary.
Thank you so much for that one. Let's see now if we're able to speak to Comrade Orobosa Omojo. Unfortunately, we can't seem to establish with him. But we do have the representative from the PDP who is joining us now. It's none other than Eseosa Iwore. He is the spokesperson for Asoi Ogi Campaign Council for the PDP. Well, thank you so much, and thank you for joining us. We appreciate you for doing this with us this morning. Good morning.
Thank you so much. Good morning.
Good morning to you.
Thank you.
Now, you most likely have heard, from our guest here, Bukola Idowu, who's part of Kimpact, and they're one of the observers, and I've put out a report pointing out all of the irregularities during the gubernatorial elections, particularly indicting all 17 parties that participated in the elections. What are your reactions to their report? Let's start from there.
The last Saturday's election in Edo will go down in history as the worst election to have been conducted by INEC in our electionary history. Since 1999, we have not seen such brazen manipulation of figures, deduction, addition, subtraction, and all what have you. It was a rape. It was a rape and authoritative confiscation of the will and mandate of the good people of Edo State, who trooped out en masse to elect a new leader to succeed Governor Godwin Obaseki, who has done commendably well in building a solid foundation for cross-cultural development in Edo State. But the APC and INEC, well, I wouldn't know if INEC had some scores to settle with Edo, because the manipulations was brazen. The addition of votes for the APC was brazen. It was authoritative. It was clear. It was open, very obvious to the visible to the blind and audible to the deaf. At a point, collation of results was moved, because this election has processes at the unit level. The PDP had flawed the APC clear, fair and square. The PDP had flawed, but from the point of collation of results, that was where the issue started. At a point, the EDOREC became a collation officer. Collation of results is a task exclusively reserved for collation officers. But you could see the INEC rec in Edo collating results by himself and chase down the PDP agents from the collation center. And the collation of results was moved from where it was there, because there is a ward collation center for every ward across local governments. Then from there is a LGA collation center for every local government areas across the states. And from there, you now move all the results to the state INEC office, where the final sorting is going to be done, and the results are announced. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you. I want to jump in there while I have your attention. Now, the reports actually damned all political parties. At the helm here of this year, the two major parties, PDP and APC, are not left out. The governor-elect has also extended a handshake or friendship to the other candidates, but it was refused by the candidate of the PDP. What's your take, first off, on the fact that the reports are indicting even the PDP in this instance?
The situations where you had some votes given to the I think there were one or two situations where INEC even allocated votes to PDP. That was systemic, so that the eyes of the world will not be on them. Because particularly in Ikobaha, where I come from, we had won the APC with about 41 to 43,000 votes, but they kept cutting down, they kept subtracting votes, taking votes from the PDP, adding up to the APC. Despite all that, they tore our votes and tore as best as they could. Yet they lost that local government to the PDP, because during the electioneering, we had come out fully to talk to our people. The people were ready, and those people trooped out en masse, because a lot of people really didn't expect the crowd that trooped out on Saturday to be that much. But you could see the enthusiasm in Edo people. You could see the readiness to elect their leaders, Aswe Odalo and Osaode Onge. But the INEC in cahoots with the APC and the police, they messed up the entire exercise and made it look like a child's play on Saturday.
All right. Well, comrade, we're going to come back to you shortly, but first we need to go on a short break. You're watching Breakfast Extra on News Central TV. We're doing an overview of the Edo gubernatorial elections and pointing out the irregularities as reported by Yaga and Kimpact, observers of the elections. We'll take a break. There's more after this. Stay with us.
And you're welcome. So, just before the break, we were talking about the review of the Edo elections from earlier. We're being joined by our guests one after the other, and we're joined by Comrade Orobosa from Edo. He's the campaign... Hang on a second, I've got to get that very right. Comrade Orobosa, Director of Publicity, Edo APC Campaign Organization. He joins us, and we are hoping that we can get one or two reactions from you from the reports that have dropped from Kimpact and Yaga, noting that they have implicated all political parties. Now, Comrade, I want you to first of all give us a 1-minute entry of your take on this, because we have to go on the news. And when we come back, we'll be giving you the floor. But what's your take initially?
First and foremost, I think the Yaga Africa and the Kimpact report are what I call the data corruption. Because first, they don't have the manpower, they don't have the coverage area to assume such kind of, responsibility that they have been given. Are you there?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, great. So you can have polling unit in Edo State that is over 4,519. And Yaga said they had 300 stationary observers. And that they went ahead, they equally had what you call the 25 roving observers. For crying out loud, 25 roving observers to 4,519 polling units. As far as I'm concerned, Yaga and Kimpact should stop observing elections in Nigeria. You can't stay in your hotel, in the comfort of your hotel room,
monitor election via television, and you come out and sit there in the cozy hotel room and write your report and assume that report is a collectivity of everything that you saw in the field. I didn't see Yaga in my local government. I didn't see Yaga in the 22 units in my ward. So as far as I'm concerned, what Yaga and Kipa just did amounts to data corruption, and they must be questioned. INEC must sanction them, and professionals in our university must call for their data and verify and verify whatever they are bundling as reports on Edo State election.
Comrade Robosa, thank you for that entry. We're going to go on a break to take the news, which Judith is going to be bringing us. Please do stay, because when we get back, we've got more to ask you regarding your submission. Let's do the news now. Judith, thank you. Hey, welcome back. From before the news, we were talking about the Kimpact Yaga reports that have come under plenty of contention, especially by parties inside of Edo State, and that actually were also well, in the mix when it comes to the elections from last week, Saturday. We had with us Comrade Robosa from earlier, and we still have Bukola Idowu with us. Now, Bukola, I'm going to come to you straight up because we have just heard from Comrade Robosa, who said that the method of gathering these details from the Kimpact team and also the Yaga team was flawed. He says, according to him, you can't stay in your hotel rooms and put together these figures. What's your response to that, Bukola?
Not the correct picture. So there are methodology of getting most of these things done. The same methodology was used in 2015 and it favored APC. In 2019, it favored APC. So if it doesn't favor them now, and then I'm wondering why the methodology is no longer good. And so the same methodology has been used in past election, and it favored the political party, and they commended the job. You recall, I can tell you, I'm not even a part of, I can tell you that in 2019, 2023, thereabout, I remember a team from APC led by, led by former governor, former minister, Fashola, was even at Yaga to look at their methodology and commended that. So, but let's leave that. That is Yaga. But for us, it's not even about our own methodology. Was purely analyzing what INEC released on IREF, downloading it, and then we have that manpower. We did that for Kogi, we did that for Imo, we did that for Bayelsa. The report is on our website. So analyzing this, we are not even saying, hey, APC, you cheat, or PDP, you cheat. We are only addressing INEC and say, INEC, look, what you release, what you declare, and tabulating, statistically tabulating what is on IREF, they are not consistent. Go and release that. Why that we unsettle a particular political party? That is why I'm wondering.
All right then, Comrade Robosa. Now, many people have also told that instead of addressing the claims by these bodies, the APC is discrediting, just like you have just done from earlier. But the question now is, what measures were put in place from before the elections by the APC to ensure that there were none of these instances of perhaps maybe vote buying or underage voters? What measures at all was suggested by the APC?
Vote buying. Let us dwell a bit on the Yaga and Kimpa report. My young man from Kimpa, I sympathize with him. He just exposed the inadequacy of the reports that they released. He did say that they relied on results on the IRF that were posted by INEC. And that is the real issue here. The PDP, through their situation room in Government House, had planned with the ad hoc staff to rig the election via the IRF. Let me tell you how. And I gave this scenario last time I spoke on this program. The PDP took the rigging of election to a far distant measure this time. And it's good that it came out, they were able to bear their facts this time, so that Nigerians can become suspect of the IRF. What they were doing, sir, across and through their 18 local government chairmen, don't forget the PDP controls the 18 local government. And you remember when INEC published the list of ad hoc staff, APC were at a disadvantage of the number of ad hoc staff that they had and the number of agents we had. PDP had thought that they won. I will use an example of what happened in the field, and I said it the last time. The youth corps that were sent to each of the units, sir, many of them were compromised by the PDP council chairman. And either at gunpoint or either they have compromised them, they will ask them to send the reports, the results that they have cooked up straight to the IRF without double checking it. So they thought, and their situation room were compiling these fake illicit results that were coming up. So when I hear about the argument that my young man from Kimpa just said now that they relied on the IRF for them to write their report, I think what INEC did at the point they knew that the results that the ad hoc staff were sending up there to the IRF were distorted. They were compromised either through monitoring or violence, attending the violence on each of these units. And the young persons, the young girls and boys, were coerced to upload this result. So what INEC did at the point later in the afternoon, they knew they were getting results, they were getting reports. People were sending report to INEC to say what they are uploading to IRF does not tally with the result, the physical result that has been collected. That's what happened. So I have laid that bare. Going back to say what was the preparation we made, first and foremost, APC campaigned tremendously to the nook and cranny of the state. And we were able to show to the people at the grassroots to say, hey, we are not the government in power. We don't have the resources. Of course, we know how much PDP paid to some of our members and leaders to decamp from APC. Sometimes they were paying them as much as $35,000 US dollars for one person to decamp. In some cases, they added SUV. So we knew that we couldn't match them cash. So what we did was that this and told our members, ensure that you go home. Especially people, don't forget 15 out of the 18 local government area we have are rural in nature. If you take out here, we're fine. Maybe we have 14. Our leaders, our supporters were put on the know that, hey, this election is between the people and Baseki. And how we were able to tell our person, we were able to tell our members, our leaders, so that they can educate the voters and say, we don't have the money to give to you, but please vote for good leadership. That was what we did.
All right. Now, I'm going to extend a right of reply to none other than Comrade Ewure there. You just heard the allegations levied against the PDP by Comrade Omojo. What's your reply?
I want to believe that there are other individuals and groups other than Yaga and the Kimpat that has also condemned the processes ahead of the announcement of the results of the election. Even the former President Jonathan has also discredited the election. Only yesterday we saw Atido Peter said, calling on Nigerians to rise up and challenge the outcome of the Edo 2024 election. Omoyele Sowore, a notable rights activist in this country, has also condemned that election. So you have more Nigerians at home and in the diaspora coming out to fault that election. So can they also be wrong? So I just think that we are going to be depending on the courts. We are putting together our materials already. The manipulations, the irregularities, and the inconsistencies. I must commend Yaga for coming out courageously to condemn that election. That was not an election. Comrade Orobo Samojo knows that it was not an election. He should provide his unit results. I can provide my unit result right now. In my unit, APC's got 10. I had 124. How many did PDP score in his unit? So people should be able to say the truth, whether it benefits them or not. What campaigns did they do? Did APC campaign? APC was banking on the federal government to help them in an election, in cahoots with the police and the army and other security agencies. We have our facts. Can all Nigerians be wrong? Can President Jonathan be wrong? No. Can Atido Peterson be wrong? No. Can Showore be wrong? No. Can Yaga be wrong? Kimpa be wrong? There are other over 50 local and international observers. Not one has commended the processes leading to the announcement of the result. So what are you going to say? The election was a sham. It was a case of, like I told you earlier, I'm sure INEC had scores. I'm sure INEC had scores to settle with Edo, and that has been settled in the course of last Saturday. That has been settled. But we approached the court with our materials, and we strongly believe, that the judiciary being the last hope of the common man, these irregularities will be repaired.
I'm asking a question here. If you please let me ask you this question. Now, these reports, these numbers that you're saying that you can actually bring out as proof, will they align with what was discovered by Kimpact or Yaga? The reports from Kimpact and Yaga did not absolve the PDP in any way. It also told that the PDP is also culpable in these malpractices as well. So what do you have to say about the involvement of the PDP in the election rigging?
Like I told you earlier, it was systemic. If for instance, like in my units was 6 Ikpobaha, I just told you what the APC scored. That could have been manipulated at the collation level. That's why we are calling for unit results. That's why we are calling, because at the unit level, we have flawed the APC. I just told you APC got 10 in my unit, 10. 10 persons voted for the APC in my unit. Whereas in that same unit, 124 persons voted for the PDP, and Labour only got 3. And this is the scenario across the entire state. This is the same scenario across the entire state. This is not a popular party. They cannot win a regular election. This was not a regular election. This was not a normal election. So at the unit level, we have flawed them. If you were to announce the results as it came from the unit, where would APC be today? Nowhere. But from that point of collation, you had the DOREC converting himself to a collation officer, which in itself is illegal and unacceptable. Then you had ANEC relocating collation center from the designated collation centers straight to the ANEC office, because when the results leaves the unit, they go to the World Collation Center. From the World Collation Center, they ought to go to the local government collation center. From the local government collation center, they move over to the states. But in this case, results were moved straight from the World Collation Center to the states. So what happened at the IBA Collation Center that they could not collect results? And they changed that to our agents, accommodating only the APC agents. Particularly in my local government, Ikpobaha, I just told you that they tore our results, our votes in Ikpobaha. They tore it, but yet we won. Orobosa Omojo, my senior brother, is aware. He's aware of all these facts.
All right. Now,
so what are you talking about? You can't call this an election that nearly every individual, an election that nearly every group that came to observe that election are condemning. You are still calling it an election because you have been declared by INEC as winner. INEC only declared you as winner because of the agreements you have with INEC. But we are going to the courts.
Comrade Omojo, 2 things here I'm going to take away, and I want you to react to them. The first one, both our other guests have just said that this results is not in favor, or rather, the report from Yaga Africa and Kimpact is not in favor of APC, and so this is why your reaction is saying that their reports and their reports of the election is a sham, and the way they came about this report is a sham. I'm going to ask you about that. With their statements, is this true that because it's not in the favor of APC that this is a sham, number one. Number two, Mr. Eseosa there also made reference to saying that your candidate of the APC did not at any given time not campaign to the level of their own candidate. What's your reaction to that?
What Eseosa has just said this morning is in line with the pattern of the PDP. Lies, lies, lies. Now let me take it. Kimpat and Yaga and Ateto Peterside and the failed former president, Jonathan, 4 of them, they can replace 51 accredited INEC observers, sir. And man, and Eseosa, listen, you are a media person. I'm sure you have read in the media space that the Center for Credible Leadership and Citizens Awareness, CCLA, accredited 51 of them, and they came out with their reports just this week that the election was credible and it reflects the will of Edo State people. So if you have 51 accredited election observers coming out with a statement and you are not bringing outsiders, which is my quarrel. People outside the 18 local government can't come to our state and give us a pass mark or a failure mark. Just 2 days ago, the civil society group in Edo State, they be consistent about civil society. They met and issued their report. And it reflected the same will, the same way that CCLA, the 51 accredited INEC election monitors, it was entirely with their report. So if all these persons who eat from the same, who buy food from the same booker that we buy, who goes to urban market to buy items as well, who we see every day, who are embedded in our 18 local government and the 4,519 thereabout polling units, say the election was credible. APC will not give a who won't bug for what Peter said we say from his Banana Island or Victoria Island, or what Jonathan will say from his Bayelsa, or what Yaga will say from Abuja, or Kimpa will say that I've admitted to say they collected the result in Ireland for them to write their report. That's being said. I want to commend your reporter, in Youth Central Reporter. He summed everything up. And that's how investigative journalists carry out their report. He said this, and I quote, he said, the outcome of the election depends on where you were, or where you were. He said, from the area that I covered, I saw this. Most parties were buying votes. That is unbiased reporting. Now, let me say this here again. As also I knows, I have seen successive administration coming out. I have 36 years in grassroots reporting. We are accredited by INEC to cover this election. So we had reports that were brought in, many of it, including they see me as a mentor in terms of rural reporting, community reporting. I am unbiased when I report about, because I don't even know the part I will belong to, whether I will be pro this or against that. Up to about 4-5 months ago, I was a very good friend. I'm still friend to Mr. Godwin Obaseki. I supported him in 2020 against all because we didn't want anybody to become a godfather.
Was it that
and
time?
We stopped Gio at this time.
Comrade, 2020, was it the time when you decamped from APC to PDP?
No, at all. In 2020, what was that? We had a collectivity of comrades who just believe, okay, in 2007, I was a spokesman to Comrade Adams Ali Oshomole. And one of the pivotal messages that we gave them was that bye-bye to godfatherism. So in 2020, when we saw the trace of reenactment and reintroduction of godfatherism into our political space, we fought back. That was what happened. I didn't need to decamp nothing. So I'm a foundation member of AC, ACN, AC, APC. I have always remained there.
In fighting godfatherism, have you not seen your candidate go to kneel before the president to shake him and tell him thank you for his support, which now points to the statement of federal might from Comrade Eseosa's submission?
Okay, let me take it this way. What we forbid here in Edo State is that in the electoral process, we don't want to see any finger coming into play to tell us who to vote for. Do you know why I got attracted to the APC, man? Against all odds, all the godfathers wanted a particular candidate or aspirant as a candidate. And this young man from nowhere, without the support of anybody. In fact, he made all the godfathers to fight themselves. He came out from nowhere. So if he went to thank the president, I think it's the right thing to do is the president is the national leader. He's the #1 leader of APC. He has the right. Whether he's going to roll on the floor, he's going to sleep on the floor. We are Africans. We have a way of expressing ourselves. In Yoruba land, you will see it, no matter how wealthy you are before a king, you are before an elder. You roll on the floor. So that does not show to say one person's head. All true, we don't have anywhere. Anyway, like one former president said in this country to say the election will be a do or die. Or like how our governor here said that Nigeria will burn if Aswe Udaro is not elected as governor. You know, so we didn't hear Mr. President did not say anything. He allowed us, there are no report to say Okpolo was forced on the Edo people.
Comrade, we're really out of time. But it's very interesting that all of a sudden we're respecting our elders, but then it's not godfatherism. There's no more time to dig deeper into this. But I appreciate you both, and also our guests from Kimpact, and that's Bukola Idowu, and I'll let Mzino do the rest of the outro
thank
here.
you. I'm just going to say thank you to the gentlemen who have joined us today to talk about this. It's been very robust. We might come back to you guys for resource for other topics, especially as it concerns Edo State. Thank you indeed.